Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. You may notice a little bit of a different setup. I'm actually sitting behind my love seat in the living room in front of the windows because there's really good lighting, at least from what it looks like on camera. Callum is actually asleep in his little swing. Yes, Callum is home. He will actually be 2 weeks old tomorrow, and he has his second doctor's checkup tomorrow. So since he's asleep in his swing and he's pretty milk drunk at this point, I thought I would kind of talk about my labor experience as well as the whole induction process that I went through. I did end up getting induced. I was about 40 weeks and 2 days. Now I know usually in a typical pregnancy, if you go like really far over your due date, they'll induce you. I was induced because of a heart condition that I have called pulmonary valve stenosis, and that basically means pulling from the wiki page, thank you, the heart valve disorder in which the outflow of blood from the right ventricle is obstructed at the level of the pulmonic valve, and it results in a reduction of flow of blood to the lungs. And I'm not too familiar with this disorder. Basically, my reasoning is I was born with it, and I was always explained, oh, you'll grow out of it, or you'll grow into it, or it's like really mild, it should go away on its own. A primary care doctor heard a heart murmur, which is kind of like a characteristic, I guess, of having pulmonic stenosis. She heard a heart murmur. I went to a cardiologist, and I do still have this type of disorder. I didn't really grow out of it. She did explain it's not something that you can really grow into. It's just something that kind of has to be monitored as time goes on. So I explained to my OB what it was, and basically she said that I needed to deliver at the high-risk hospital that they have. So basically that threw a wrench in my plans of where I was planning on delivering. I wasn't familiar with any of the doctors or midwives there, which I guess wasn't too big of an issue. It was just kind of sucky to get used to the midwives and doctors you have, and then a week or so before you deliver, you find out you're going to a different hospital. But it wasn't all that bad. The whole delivery went smoothly. So I was actually 40 weeks and 2 days when I was induced. They set up my induction date for 7/31, their July 31st. And so that was a Monday, and it was 7 o'clock. And the lady basically explained that they would call me between the hours of 5 and 9, and it's really just whenever they had a bed available for me. They called me about 6:30 to say, come in within the hour, we'll get you all set up. My husband and I drove over there, and the hospital was about 25 to 35 minutes away from our house, so it wasn't too terrible. They got me set up in my room, and since I was delivering at a different hospital, the majority of the first like 30 minutes or so of me being in my room was the nurse trying to get all my information from my OB's office to that hospital. So it was just her kind of going back over, you know, all my history, all my vitals, things like that. Also, this kind of the first 30 minutes to an hour was them hooking me up to an IV in my hand, hooking up the monitors to my heart, so to monitor the stenosis that I have, to make sure my heart rate didn't go too out of whack. When I was at my OB's office, the original OB's office, the midwives and doctors always told me there was no point in cervical checks because I could be 5 centimeters and not go into labor, or I could be 0 centimeters and labor could start that night. So they were really against giving me cervical checks to kind of give me false hope. But when I did get admitted to the hospital, the doctor checked me, and she said that I was actually 3 centimeters, so I wouldn't need the Foley catheter, the little balloon that goes in to kind of open up the cervix. I wouldn't need that they would go ahead and start me on the Pitocin. I was already having mild contractions, which I wasn't really feeling. I was actually very happy about because I knew it was going to get painful very fast. I actually didn't start feeling contractions until it was about 4 to 5 centimeters. That's when it was starting to get a little uncomfortable for me, and I was actually thinking about the pain meds that they were going to offer. So when I got about 5 centimeters, the nurse or the doctor came in and checked me again, and the nurse said, we can start you on an epidural, we can start you on medication in your IV, or you can do nitrous oxide. And because of my stenosis, I kind of had to be steered towards an epidural, even though I didn't really want to get one. Mainly because the epidural kind of takes the stress off of your heart and your lungs a little bit. So that I kind of had to go in that direction. I was a little nervous about the epidural just because of a giant needle going into your spine and you can't really see what's going on. It was a very interesting feeling to have the epidural placed, because I've heard or I've read on like a pregnancy message board that someone said it's like you can feel like a crunch feeling, and that was a very interesting explanation for it. But it was a very weird sensation to have the needle go in and you could feel kind of like this crunch in your spine as it was going in. The actual epidural, it was more like a bee sting. It didn't hurt at all going in. But once it started to work, the contractions weren't as bad. They definitely weren't as bad. Like they say, you can still feel the pressure, but there's really no pain involved in the contractions after that. So they did end up, to kind of speed up the contractions, they did end up breaking my water, which they broke my water before I got the epidural, and that's when the pain really amped up. That's when I was like, okay, I think I'm going to opt for the epidural now. Because when they break the water, that's when the baby's head actually starts to hit your cervix, and that's when it starts to hurt a little bit more. So they ended up breaking my water. It wasn't a lot of water. It was a weird, like, warm gush feeling. I know people have explained it's kind of like almost peeing yourself. You just can't stop it. And it kind of was almost that sensation. So they broke my water, and that was probably, I want to say, around midnight to 1 o'clock. And having the epidural and the water broken, it was just a lot of intense pressure in my abdomen. So it was probably, they just kind of kept a monitor on me throughout the night, and it was probably around 5 or 6 o'clock that the doctor actually came back in to check me. And I think she explained it as I was like right at 10 centimeters, but it was just, I had like a teeny more bit to go before I could actually push. So she gave me about, 35 to 45 minutes to kind of progress a little bit further along. And about 6:50, 7 o'clock, that's when she came back in to check me, and I could feel pressure kind of in, it kind of felt almost like like I needed to make a bowel movement or go to the bathroom. It was an intense pressure in my bottom, and I was just like, I feel like I need to push. And I know it's been helpful to read birth stories that other women have posted, because I've kind of been able to expect all of these feelings and know how they were explaining it. It kind of helped me to know what was going on. So it was about 6:50, 7 o'clock that they came back in to check me. I was a full 10 centimeters, and like I explained to them, I could feel the pressure. So I had at first the doctor, and then I believe it was probably 3 nurses in there to kind of help me out. I had about 45 minutes to an hour of just pushing, trying to push Callum out. And like I said, he was born at 7:35. He was 7 pounds, 7 ounces, and 21 inches long. I know I was really worried about his size just because of my diet during the whole pregnancy. I gained a bunch of weight. But he came out, I believe, to me, is like a perfect weight and size for a baby. Not, not too small, not too big. He was very long, very lanky. So the whole birthing experience, I feel like it's something that I've tried to kind of prepare myself for. The whole, labor feels like this is what it feels like when you're ready to push, things like that. And it's definitely an experience that the feelings and the emotions and the actual pain levels, it's something that you can try to prepare yourself for, but it's just really different once you actually go through it. I know reading birth stories actually really helped me, like I said, because a lot of women explained like the pressures that they were feeling, like what it actually felt like, having that epidural placed, things like that. And their experience actually helped me kind of prepare myself for it. So I will say reading birth stories kind of helped me prepare for giving birth and what I was about to experience. As far as my postpartum kind of recovery, like I said, it's about 2 weeks out. I'm finally not really bleeding, I guess. I'm just having some off-color discharge, but that's really it. I will say that I did end up having to get stitches, and that has probably been the more uncomfortable thing that has had to heal, is having those stitches. I believe they kind of start to dissolve around 3 to 4 weeks, so hopefully that feeling will kind of go away around that time. I've had a hard time accepting what my body looks like after baby, especially the fact that I am very impatient when it comes to healing, like my body healing. I know after I got my wisdom teeth taken out, I was very upset that I couldn't eat or drink, or, you know, I couldn't be my normal self 3 to 4 days after the wisdom teeth surgery. So having to accept that I've had to go a little slower and, you know, kind of take things a little bit more easier, that's been a little bit harder for me to accept, you know, the first week or two. And also going into the second week, I'm not, like I mentioned, I'm not happy with the way my body looks, especially my stomach, and that, you know, that's still what's the word, it's still recovering. My stomach is still kind of deflating down. So it's been, like I said, 2 weeks, and I'm still kind of trying to process the whole you took 9 months to put this on, it's going to take 9 months roughly to take it off. So that's been something that I've been dealing with. Also, the baby blues, I will say, have been a little tough for me. My husband has had to deal with me crying pretty much every night over a different thing every night. So it's definitely been difficult. I know kind of the baby blues will kind of start to fade out a little bit, and you're more so watching for postpartum depression. So my husband and I are kind of educated on that, and we'll definitely be watching out for those symptoms. Overall, my labor and induction process was completely smooth. I do have to say that I'm really thankful for nurses, the labor and delivery nurses. They were super caring, super helpful. Lactation consultants, they were amazing, because of the fact that Callum and I are still having a hard time with breastfeeding. We're using a nipple shield right now, which is proving wonders and wonders, and it's making the breastfeeding experience a lot more easier for us, even though it's supposed to be kind of a temporary thing. Overall, I'm just thankful for, you know, the nurses, lactation consultants that made the whole process a lot easier for us when we were struggling. I'm also really thankful for my husband in this, just because he's been able to take care of Callum for the first 2 weeks. He was able to take off work and take care of our son and let me go through the healing process. But that is it for this video. If you liked it, please give a big thumbs up. It helps me out a lot. I'll be making another video later on about what I actually used in my hospital bag, so be on the lookout for that. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, I think I already said this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more like this, and I will see you all in the next one.